Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. My channel simply is Discerning What is True. I'm going to be reading from a particular book today. This will be chapter 7 of Psychology and Kabbalah. Today is the third day of November 2025. Sorry, I said chapter 7. I meant to say chapter 8. Excuse me. So chapter 8 title simply called Fate, F-A-T-E, and Destiny. And bear with me here. So again, this writer is a Jewish guy. He's the one who wrote Kabbalah, Tradition of Hidden Knowledge. His name is simply called Ze'ev Shamon Halevi, Halevi. He's passed away. This particular book I've already gone on, some of it with Phil Langdon. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to him again in the near future. So he has this book here called Psychology and Kabbalah, and this is chapter 8, Fate and Destiny. From the moment a person is born, that is, takes the first breath and is separated from the mother, he is subject to the laws of nature. This is because at birth the physical body finally manifests in the Maku of Asiyah, that's Asiyah, the lowest of the four worlds. After passing through the descending sequence of gestation, having produced the physical vehicle which enables the entity inhabiting it to exist in the natural world. The process then reverses and begins to return back from the maternity of the body through the various stages of growth, maternity and aging towards death. The first phase after birth into Asiyah, Maku, is Yesod, Y-E-S-O-D, or the stage of infancy. The next Had, or childhood, and then Nezah, N-E-Z-A-H, which relates to youth. Teferel marks the point when a person reaches their physical prime, while the Jera Baru and Hesed stages correspond to early and late middle ages. Da, D-A-A-T, brings the phase when one thinks about death as the symptoms of mortality are experienced. The Manah period is of early old age and Holcomb. The epoch of late old age arrives before the individual comes to Keter and dies, leaving the body tree to dissolve back into the Asiyah elements. The Sephiroth stages of life echo the planetary ages of the ancient art of astrology, which many Kabbalists see as the study of the influence of the Yetzirah world upon the psyche, because there is clearly a set of universal principles at work in both the body and the psyche. So the horoscope drawn up from the moment of birth is considered to hold the key to each fate, as their pattern is fixed at the first breath. This leads on to the idea that fate is the resultant pattern of a life as a particular individual with a certain karma and in a specific environment, passing through the various phases of physical and psychological development. Seen this way, fate is a highly complex combination of factors operating on many levels. That is why there are so many different views of it. For example, some see fate just as what happens to the body. Others view it as the history of the psyche. Yet others perceive it as the combination of the two, but only at the level of ego and conditioning, while others take just the inner life into account and detach it from physical reality. Fate, that is the F-A-T-E, contains all these factors, that is the physical situation, its psychological aspects, and its spiritual and divine dimensions. Few see them as a unity that produces exactly the right conditions for the realization of each individual at their particular stage of evolution. Figure 13, which is in this particular book, into that, so we just want to get to the point here. So after the descent into the body, a reverse process begins. Here are the various phases through which a person goes in a long life at the physical level. However, this may not correspond with their psychological development. An individual may remain infantile or childish in their outlook. Puberty may become a fixed state of mind throughout life, while another may reach a degree of adult maturity. To go beyond psychologically means to begin to evolve the soul and develop the spiritual. At the crown would come the first stage of enlightenment. In order to get a general sense of development sequence, let us outline some examples of the planetary and sephiral stages that can prevail one's incarnation and their qualities. A person who has not progressed beyond the earth or Malkuth phase of incarnation, that is, for instance, would not outgrow and master the elements, and so would be preoccupied with physical security, while the individual at a lunar, Lunar, or Yasada phase of development might be childlike and egocentric in all their dealings with the world. Those at the Mercuria stage of hot, HOD, are often eternal students, always looking for novelty and information, even as those in the Nezathean or Venusian phase frequently carry on as they did in their youth throughout their pleasure-oriented life. And that's what Phil talked about when he was pleasure-oriented when he was very young. We all tend to be that way at basically starting out as teenagers, probably about 15, 16 to probably 20, 25 years old. But you move on from that, you see. Those who are in the solar or prime stage of temporal often assume a great self-confidence unless their pride has been broken or modified by tests of fate, while people who are at the Mardiga or Gurvara stage usually spend their lives in an endless compulsion until they learn to control themselves and serve a higher purpose. Those stuck at Hesed, Hesed, or the Jovian, Jovian phase can be the excessive generosity givers who seek to buy love or respect, and not a few who have reached Da, D-A-A-T, which is knowledge, or the Pluto phase, that is, live preoccupied with death and the beyond. While others at the Saturnian or banal phase become old because of their time and deep understanding or the lack of it. Those at the Uranian stage of Hokkahama frequently live their lives according to visions which may be profound illumination or madness, and those whose fates have the quality of Keter or the Neptune often have a deep religious dimension to their fate, which can be genuinely in some and delusional in others. As will be seen, each one of these stages have different possibilities. This is determined by two critical factors. The first is the element of free will on the part of the person in response to their situation, and the second is the purpose of that individual's fate in relation to the lesson they have to learn about their place in the universe. The old rabbi said, quote, "Not a sparrow falls that is not noted in heaven," end quote, and also, quote, "Are not the hairs of your head numbered," end quote. That is to say, everything occurs according to a grand design and everything is taken into account. This concept was symbolized by the great curtain hung before heaven, in which each thread represented the destiny of an individual, to make up segments that follow the Sephiroth sequence from the top to the bottom and back again. In some cases, one stage may take many lives to complete. In others, the process may move quickly over one's lifetime, such as in the example of the Buddha. This overall plan is, of course, too vast for most people to recognize in a fleeting 70 years and 10. So they're talking about 70 years old. Individuals have felt or seen at crucial moments of their lives some sense of purpose to their existence. Not a few have actually perceived what their destiny is and followed it. These people are quite distinct from the rest of humanity, which, for the most part, is oblivious of its personal and cosmic objectives and seek only to survive and propagate. However, there are millions who have developed Hod, H-O-D, and Nezah type of fates, appearing as great discoverers and entrepreneurs or creators and innovators, while advanced Tiferet-centered people act as leaders at every level. Likewise, those at Jervara stage manifest in various disciplines such as professional soldiers or lawyers, while people who are cultivating Hesed are often seen in religious communities or doing charitable work. Individuals operating from a powerful dot, D-A-A-T, may be the seers of their generation. Well-developed banal people are frequently found running large organizations, while talented Hokalam types can take up as ideas people in the laboratory or political party. The Keter initiates are sometimes seen in monasteries and asylums, although they are rarely observed in ordinary life. Even though they are undoubtedly there to give it to the divine dimensions, all these are well individualized types who, it must be said, may be good or evil. Every human being possesses free will, and few care to use it fully. Most people prefer to choose, and if it is their choice, to come under the power of one of the functions. This means they are ruled by their bodies or by their egos, or that they are dominated by one of the other Sephirah. Many people have not got beyond the Yasata stage, and as they are governed by what society imposes on them, as they confirm like grown-up children. This may seem a harsh judgment, but if one considers human history and how the majority allows their lives to be ruled by others, it's easy to conclude that real and mature individuality is indeed quite rare. I just got a showing of an astrological chart here in a circle. Figure 14, fate. The ancient art of astrology, applied by many Kabbalists, recognize the influences of the macrocosm or the microcosm of human being. They plot out the pattern of fate, which manifests in a unique mixture of temperaments as set out by what we call the birth chart. Here, for example, the sun in Capricorn is in the 12th house, reveals the introvert psychology, despite a public persona, indicates by a Gemini moon in the 5th house. These are crucial factors in the unfolding of karma or the fulfillment of destiny. The purpose of each fate is to create the conditions for such individuality to emerge. This motion is based upon the recognition that nothing occurs in existence without a reason and that no event is without significance. If the organization of the human where am I at here? I lost my place with something. The phone rang here. Human embryo can occur in perfect sequence with each stage of development, phasing in as just the right point to create, form, and make billions of cells arrange themselves into such a complex organism, then it is not unreasonable to think that the plan of individual fate follows the same laws. It is no accident that the Earth is just in the right place in relation to the Sun, the Moon, and planets to be able to support life, and that the most delicate web of nature is maintained by an integrated network of flora and fauna. Nor is it strange from the viewpoint of universal principles to see how each life and death is part of a whole in which each generation is but a season in the general evolution of the planet. In humanity's case, the development of individuality arises out of the collective groups of families, tribes, peoples, and civilizations as they emerge over the cycles of many incarnations to psychological and spiritual maturity. This process, however, has to be monitored because free will and resulting karma lead to many twists. faith before people get in touch with their original spiritual group or meet their soulmate with whom they can carry out their particular destiny or cosmic task. Sadly, many who are trained to observe the psyche are oblivious of these largely dimensions which require a awareness of things beyond the normal view of the world. Such a sensitivity is often concealed for professional reasons or lost beneath clinical observations. However, in this exercise of relating psychology to Kabbalah, we can explore such ideas and dimensions freely. Therefore, in our next chapter, we shall leave the sense and logic-based perception of reality and examine the moment of death and what follows in order to see what goes on prior to a new life. In this way, we may glimpse the situation of the psyche before it is affected by the conditioning of its next incarnation. So that is chapter 8, Psychology and Kabbalah. Today, being the third day of November 2025. So I'm going to say something else real quick here. Anyway, I'll let you guys go. I finished this particular chapter. I may try to do another chapter here again in a few moments. Appreciate you listening. Again, my channel is Discerning What Is True. My name is Brant, B-R-A-N-T. Last name is Hunt. Dealing with, again, the book by a particular author here that wrote Kabbalah, Tradition of Hidden Knowledge. And this chapter was chapter, as I shared earlier. I wish you a good day. Take care.